Dr. Manhattan versus the Beyonder, two of the most powerful beings in all of comics, two universal, multiversal gods. Well, they're going at it today. And in this epic fight between the two, well, who's ultimately going to be coming out on top? Who's going to win it all? Well, let's get into it. Dr. Manhattan, also known as John Osterman, was just your average physicist until he became a being with godlike powers. His origin story starts in Watchmen, a classic series that will really make you question your own existence. In this story, John Osterman was working in his laboratory when he got caught in an intrinsic field subtractor, which is just a fancy way of saying he was disintegrated and killed. But then he was reassembled again on a quantum level, giving him godlike powers. So what are Dr. Manhattan's powers, you might be asking? Good question. Well, for starters, he can manipulate matter and energy, create and destroy life, and even manipulate time itself. Basically, he's the ultimate cheat code. He can teleport anywhere in the world instantly, which means he never has to deal with traffic. And he's virtually indestructible, so you can forget about trying to fight him. He can create objects out of thin air. He can even raise the dead. That's literally just scratching the surface here. Dr. Manhattan's powers also extend to his sense of time. He has a complete understanding of time as a linear concept, meaning he can see the past, present, and future all at once. This makes it easy for him to predict events and make strategic decisions. In other words, he's always the smartest guy in the room, always multiple steps ahead of everyone around him. And then another thing that makes Dr. Manhattan truly powerful is actually his complete detachment from his emotions. Believe it or not, he doesn't feel happiness, he doesn't feel love, he doesn't even feel hatred or anger, he just doesn't feel. And because of that, it actually allows him to make decisions and take actions that would be impossible for pretty much any hero in the DC universe. And sometimes that's not always the best thing. Remember how Manhattan has a completely different view of time than we do? How he can see time as an actual concept and perceive the past, present, and future all at the same time? But how he can exist in all time, everywhere, all the time, literally being in every timeline at once? Well, this allows him to play out alternate timelines, see the future and the past, and how it all plays out. And not just that, but actually allows him to manipulate different events and change the course of history. Like he could prevent Jor-El from dying in Krypton's explosion, that sort of thing. He can change the outcome of any fight or battle, even change the course of your own personal life. Obviously, this makes him insanely powerful in DC, but it doesn't just stop there. Because he doesn't just manipulate events within the timeline. Manhattan can actually manipulate whole timelines, which leads us to Flashpoint and the New 52. Flashpoint is a massive comic book crossover event that has some pretty major implications for the DC universe. In the story, The Flash, Barry Allen travels back in time to save his mother's life. But in doing so, he accidentally creates a new timeline where the world is drastically different from what he remembers. Superman was captured by the US government as a baby, Bruce Wayne was shot in that alley, and Thomas Wayne became Batman. Atlantis and Themyscira were at war with each other. The world is basically a shit show. And so Flash tries to reverse it and set everything right. But that didn't really work out that way. Instead, the New 52 was formed, a major reboot for DC Comics and their continuity. A lot of characters had their histories and backstories altered and rewritten. A lot of the major events and storylines for DC were just wiped out. And Superman stopped wearing his underwear on the outside of his pants. Only turns out none of this was the Flash at all. He didn't cause any of this. It was actually Dr. Manhattan. He was the cause behind Flashpoint. and casually was able to destroy that whole universe. He was the one who managed to remove 10 years from the main DC timeline and start the New 52 universe, basically using it as his own petri dish and science experiment as he explored the nature of time and all its causalities. Of course, this couldn't last for forever, and when it came to an end, a lot of unintended consequences came along with it. And that's Doomsday Clock right there. The events of Doomsday Clock take place in the aftermath of the DC Rebirth event, which saw the return of Wally West and all the other characters who had previously been erased from DC continuity. Things are beginning to set themselves back to the proper balance of things, and it's revealed that Dr. Manhattan is the one responsible for all these changes to the DC timeline, the puppet master behind the scenes, playing everybody and manipulating everything. And obviously our heroes aren't too happy with this. They don't really like being played like that, so they try and stop Manhattan from manipulating their world. And Manhattan basically beats half the heroes with just a wave of his hand. He easily absorbed the Green Lantern's powers. Magic is just a statistical anomaly to him that he can easily manipulate. Literally no hero could stand in his way. I mean, sure, they tried, but they all failed. Because, of course they did. This is a literal god they're facing down. And not like how Wonder Woman is a goddess, or Superman is just as powerful as a god. Literally a god. Capital G kind of god. Basically, no one could beat him. Only way Doomsday Clock ended was with Manhattan realizing the error of his ways and restoring the memories and histories of all the different characters who had been affected, effectively ending the New 52 continuity. But you want to know how he did this? Well, he took the DC Metaverse, a single unique universe, and destroyed the whole thing, then restarted and kicked it off again, this time without him intervening. He ultimately decided to leave the DC universe altogether, believing it was better to leave it alone to heal on its own. The Beyonder started out as a young member of the ancient race of multiversal engineers known as the Beyonders, and he's definitely the most famous Beyonder out there. And honestly, the Beyonder story is a little bit confusing, filled with retcons and power-ups, but I'll try my best to explain it. The Beyonder started out incubating in a special womb space, only to become aware of an outside reality when a small pinhole tore through the womb, allowing him to see through the fabric of reality and observe other dimensions and universes. This was shocking to the Beyonder, because before this, well, he was the embodiment of everything in his personal universe, had never known anything else. And so, he decided to start interacting with these different universes in hopes of learning more about them. The first interaction with the Beyonder was the Secret Wars, where a whole bunch of different heroes and villains from Earth were placed on a makeshift planet known as Battle World, forced to fight for their survival, all for the Beyonder's satisfaction. When the Secret Wars was over, well, the Beyonder started taking a more hands-on approach and interacting with different universes directly, descending from his reality and into our realm, where he consistently found himself to be the most powerful being in all of existence. Because the Beyonder had known nothing before this, well, he just assumed that it meant he truly was the most powerful being in all of existence, dwarfing every other power in the multiverse. And this is where the retcon comes in, because it turns out the Beyonder was wrong. He wasn't a supreme being, but was a fractured and incomplete entity, a failed cosmic cube. And his time in the womb had actually been cut short by the creation of Molecule Man. And because of that, he never developed as he should have. Obviously, this truth was hard to hear, but eventually the Beyonder began to come to grips with it and accepted that he required fixing. So he then basically went on a speed run of evolution, going from the Beyonder to evolving to becoming the entity Cosmos, then finally maturing and ascending to become a fully fledged Beyonder, taking his place with the other members of his race above all of reality. Even from the very beginning, the Beyonder has always been one of the top tier, most powerful beings in all of Marvel. Even at his weakest, the Beyonder was still an infinite dimensional being, existing as the entirety of his own endless universe. He could do literally anything that he wanted, infinitely strong, infinitely tough, able to create or do anything he could imagine, just an insanely powerful character. But then the Beyonder merged with the part of his energy that had been locked away, evolving into a perfect cosmic cube, became even more powerful than he had before. He was now equal to the likes of Cubic and Cosmos, beings who had easily stomped the weaker version of the Beyonder, were powerful enough to crush the entire Beyond realm with their bare hands. Now, this upgraded version of the Beyonder was their equal. However, it didn't stop there for the Beyonder, because he managed to complete his evolution and reach his truest form, where he managed to transcend beyond the multiverse and joined the rest of his kind in the engine room of all creation, being above and beyond all of existence. The Beyonder is now above everything, literally above everything. In fact, he liberated himself from the bindings of the One Above All and escaped from the House of Ideas, basically attaining a state of freedom from Marvel Comics itself. Blue Marvel put it best. The Beyonder was ascending into true Buddhahood. Yeah, he's that guy. He's not just a Beyonder, he's the Beyonder. So, who wins? Well, let's break it down. Now, these two guys, they're basically two gods within their respective universes. They're like the gods of gods. They're both able to do literally anything and everything that they want. And so, for a fight like that, it really kind of relies a lot on scaling within their cosmic hierarchies. Because, both of them can destroy the Avengers or the Justice League or anything like that. That's lowball stuff for them, absolutely. But what about them at their best? Well, for Dr. Manhattan, his best showing would probably be when the Darkest Knight took over Batmanhattan and fought Perpetua. Now, this isn't the original Dr. Manhattan. Let's just make that clear. Instead, this takes place in Dark Knight's death metal and is considered a Batman version of Dr. Manhattan. A Batman Hatton. Still, it shows how powerful any Dr. Manhattan can be. Basically, what happens that there are all these twisted and dark versions of Batman from the dark universe. They're all evil and disturbed, but the worst one out of all of them, and their leader, is the Batman who laughs. Well, Wonder Woman killed this one, but it wasn't the end of him. He's always got contingencies on contingencies on contingencies. He is Batman, after all. And one of his contingencies was he had found a Bruce Wayne out there in the multiverse who came into contact with the comedian's button, had decided to study it, building an intrinsic field generator of his own. Well, while he was in the middle of experimenting, the Batman who laughs locked him in the machine, with the resulting accident giving Bruce powers similar to Dr. Manhattan. After Bruce was able to reform his body months later after the accident, the Batman who laughs lobotomized him before he could gain omnipotence and stored him away for a rainy day. And now, his loyal lieutenants, along with some surgical help from some evil Alfreds, were able to put the Batman who laughs brain inside the body of Bruce Wayne, who is a being of pure energy. They were able to resurrect him, and he got Dr. Manhattan's powers along the way. So now Batman Who Laughs has the powers of Dr. Manhattan, becoming the Darkest Knight. And even though this is arguably a filtered down or inferior version of the original Dr. Manhattan, it was still enough power to attract the attention of Perpetua. And now, who's Perpetua? You might be asking. Well, she's one of the hands from the greater Omniverse. She was the first creator of the multiverse, when the mother of the Monitor, the Anti-Monitor, and the World Forger. And you know what? Perpetua, the literal creator of the multiverse, and the Darkest Knight, they fight. And this Batman with the powers of Dr. Manhattan was able to beat her. And in that fight, well, it was said that their clash raged across all levels of reality, that the stories of the multiverse were tearing apart because of them. And the Darkest Knight won that fight. When Wonder Woman shows up, she's now amped up with the powers of Dr. Manhattan too, which is just crisis and connective energy, the same stuff that's used to create multiverses. She's able to beat the Darkest Knight in a fight that spans from the creation of the multiverse to the very end of the multiverse. But then there's the Beyonder, and for as powerful as Perpetua is, well, the Beyonder should be more powerful. Now, Perpetua has some great feats, like she was able to fight against and beat the Ultra Monitor, a fusion of her 3 children. The Monitor, the Anti-Monitor, and the World Forger. But just like with her son, the Anti-Monitor, it looks like Perpetua actually needed tools to finish her mission of destroying the multiverse and starting over and creating a new one. Perpetua had all these tuning forks that captured the psychic energy of people from Earth Zero, and it's their agony that keeps her powerful enough to finish the job of destroying universe after universe and tearing down the Orrery of Worlds and starting over from scratch. And also, the DC multiverse is actually a lot smaller at this time than it normally is. There are only 6 Earths left in the multiverse here. And she needed psychic amping to tear down the Orrery of Worlds, which is just 52 universes. Basically, Perpetua is very powerful and she is multiversal. Still think the Beyonder is more powerful. Because for starters, well, just the race of the Beyonders is insanely powerful. Beyonders exist as embodiments of the beyond, and are more primal than the Omniverse and reality and information itself. They're completely above even the ideas of reality and existence. They're just simply beyond anything that you can possibly comprehend. And the Beyonders back this up with their feats too. Like the Beyonders were able to kill multi-eternity, a trans-finite being. So basically a higher infinity above infinity. The Beyonders killed him. They also managed to kill the Living Tribunal, a 16th dimensional being. Just 3 Beyonders were able to kill all the Celestials. And then the Beyonder is probably above even this at this point. When the original Beyonder became an adult and on par with the other Beyonders, he was able to liberate himself from the bindings of the One Above All and escape from the House of Ideas, reaching a state of freedom above Marvel Comics that's kind of like ascending to true Buddhahood. This is quite literally the equivalent of Dr. Manhattan stomping on the presence, then literally breaking out of DC Comics as a whole, something that obviously he's never done, hasn't even been close to doing. The Beyonder is an absolute beast. For as powerful as Dr. Manhattan is, there's really just no debate here. The Beyonder could destroy him with ease. It's not even close.